All right, settle in, folks. This is a long one. My 40 men at the time, now 43 journey from soul-crushed spreadsheet jockey to, well, something else entirely. And yes, my wife, 38F at the time, now 41F, Sarah, was pretty central to the whole drama. TLDR, hated my accounting job, dreamed of woodworking. Wife freaked about me quitting stable job for hobby, took the plunge, nearly broke us, now thriving. She's mostly come around, so picture this. Me, Mark, 5 years deep, as a senior accountant at Consolidated Solutions and Synergies, Inc. I swear the name alone could sedate a rhino. Every morning, the same beige cubicle, the same flickering fluorescent lights, the same lukewarm coffee that tasted vaguely of regret. My days were a blur of Excel sheets, month-end closes, budget variance reports, and Mr. Henderson, my manager, a man whose idea of motivation was to passive-aggressively question your commitment if you left at 5:01 p.m. I was good at it, meticulous even. But my soul was shriveling up like a forgotten grape. The pay was decent, benefits were solid. We had a mortgage on a nice-ish suburban house. 2 kids, Lily then 7, and Tom then 5, and Sarah worked part-time as a dental hygienist. We were by all accounts stable, and Sarah loved stable. My escape, my sanity was my garage. It wasn't much, a standard 2-car deal, but one side was slowly, meticulously being converted into a woodworking shop. It started small, a birdhouse for Lily, a wobbly bookshelf. Then I got more ambitious, a coffee table from reclaimed oak, a beautiful little jewelry box for Sarah, which she loved ironically. The smell of sawdust, the hum of the planer, the satisfaction of taking raw lumber and shaping it into something beautiful and functional. Man, that was my oxygen. I'd spend hours out there after the kids were in bed, sometimes until 2 a.m., then drag myself to Consolidated Solutions on a few hours sleep, feeling more alive from my nocturnal crafting than a full night's rest ever gave me. The idea started as a whisper. Friends would see my stuff and say, "Mark, you could sell this." I'd laugh it off. Then a colleague, Jen, asked if I could make a custom set of floating shelves for her new apartment. I quoted her a price, mostly for materials and a bit for my time. She was thrilled. Then her friend wanted a rustic dining table. Then a neighbor wanted a custom mudroom bench. Suddenly, I had a little side hustle, Mark's Custom Timber, operating purely by word of mouth. I wasn't making bank, but the extra cash was nice, and the validation, intoxicating. This went on for about 2 years. I was burning the candle at both ends, for sure. Corporate drone by day, passionate craftsman by night and weekend. The kids sometimes helped, mostly by making a bigger mess with scraps. But it was cute, and I talked to Sarah about my projects. She was supportive in a "that's a nice hobby, dear" kind of way. She appreciated the furniture I made for our house, but I don't think she ever saw it as more than that, a hobby. The turning point came during my annual review with Mr. Henderson. He droned on about meeting expectations, which was his highest praise reserved for cyborgs, and then dangled the carrot of potential team lead in 18 to 24 months if Q3 and Q4 projections are exceeded. 18 to 24 months for a chance at slightly more responsibility and a marginally better title. Doing the same soul-sucking work? I swear, something inside me just snapped. I nodded, smiled weakly, and walked out of his office, feeling like I'd just been handed a life sentence with no possibility of parole. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the numbers from my side hustle swirling in my head. If I dedicated myself to it full time, could I make it work? The thought was terrifying, exhilarating. I imagined a small workshop, not just my garage. I imagined happy customers, a reputation for quality. I imagined being proud of what I did for a living. The next Saturday, I decided to broach the subject with Sarah. We were having coffee on the patio, kids playing in the yard. It was one of those perfect suburban mornings. "Honey," I started, heart thumping like a drum solo. "I've been thinking a lot about my job." She looked up, a slight frown. "Oh? Is Henderson being a pain again?" "It's more than Henderson," I said. "It's everything. I'm miserable, Sarah. truly deeply miserable. She put her mug down. Mark, we've talked about this. It's a good job. It pays the bills. Not everyone loves their job. That's why it's called work. This was her standard line. And usually I'd concede, but not this time. I know. But what if I could do something I do love? Something I'm good at, that people are already paying me for. Her eyes narrowed. You mean you're woodworking? The way she said it, like it was a slightly embarrassing rash. Yes, Mark's custom timber. I've run the numbers. If I went full time, focused on marketing, maybe rented a small commercial space. Her face went pale. You're not serious. You want to quit your job? Your stable, well-paying job with benefits for making tables in the garage? It wouldn't just be in the garage eventually. And yes, I'm serious. I'm 40, Sarah. I can't spend the next 25 years feeling like this. It's killing me. Killing you? She scoffed, color rushing back into her cheeks. But it wasn't a healthy flush. What about killing us? What about the mortgage? The kids' college funds? My part-time salary won't cover all that. Are you insane? The conversation, let me tell you, did not improve from there. It escalated. Voices were raised, tears were shed, mostly hers, a few of mine in sheer frustration. You're being selfish, Mark, she accused. This is a fantasy, a midlife crisis. People don't just throw away careers they've built. It's not a fantasy, I argued, my voice probably too loud. I have actual orders. I have skills. And this career is a gilded cage. And what happens when the orders dry up? When a piece of wood is just a piece of wood and not some magical solution to all your problems? What then, Mark? Do we sell the house? Her fear was palpable. And I understood it. I really did. She grew up with financial instability. Her dad had a string of failed businesses. Security was her bedrock. My dream looked like a reckless gamble to her, a direct threat to everything she valued. For weeks, our house was an ice palace. We spoke in clipped sentences. Every attempt I made to show her my spreadsheets, my business plan. Yes, I had one. My projections based on current orders and potential growth was met with a stony silence or a renewed burst of anxiety. What if you get hurt, she'd say. Those machines are dangerous. Your accounting job doesn't involve table saws. What if the economy tanks? What if people just stop wanting custom furniture? Her what-ifs were an endless barrage of worst-case scenarios. My what-ifs, what if I'm actually happy? What if I build something amazing? What if I show our kids it's okay to chase a dream? Those didn't seem to register. I tried to compromise. What if I build it up more on the side for another year? Get more capital saved, and work yourself into an early grave in the meantime? She countered, which, okay, fair point, but not helpful. The tension was awful. I started sleeping in the guest room some nights, just to give us both space. Lily and Tom picked up on it, asking why Mommy and Daddy were grumpy. That was a gut punch. I felt like I was drowning. On one hand, my very rational, loving wife, terrified for our family's future. On the other, this burning, visceral need to escape a life that felt increasingly meaningless and to build something real. I was losing weight, my temper was short, and even my beloved garage time started to feel tainted by the conflict. The breaking point for me came about 3 months after that initial disastrous conversation. I was at work staring at a particularly convoluted reconciliation report for a subsidiary that consistently miscoded their expenses. Miss Anderson ambled by, peered over my shoulder and said, "Still on that, Mark?" Expected it wrapped by lunch. No hello, no context, just that flat, critical tone. And I minimized the spreadsheet, I opened my email, I typed out a resignation letter. Short, professional, effective immediately. I had vacation time accrued. I figured they could use that for my 2 weeks. I hit send. Then I stood up, grabbed my jacket and briefcase, which mostly contained a half-eaten sandwich and a well-thumbed woodworking magazine, walked past Henderson's office without a word, and left Consolidated Solutions and Synergies Inc. for the last time. The walk to my car was the most terrifying and liberating moment of my life. I felt like I'd jumped out of a plane without checking for a parachute. Calling Sarah was, well, you can imagine. You did what? Her voice was a choked whisper. I quit, Sarah. I had to. I just couldn't do another day. Silence. Then, you didn't even talk to me. After everything, you just did it. We have been talking about it for months, and all I've heard is no. Because it's a terrible idea, Mark. What are we going to do? The panic in her voice was raw. We're going to make it work, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I have about $20,000 saved from the side hustle, plus my last paycheck. I'm gonna hit the ground running. She hung up on me. The first few months were brutal. Not just financially, though, that was a huge stressor, but emotionally. Sarah treated me like I'd betrayed her. She was polite for the kids' sake, but the warmth was gone. She ramped up her hours at the dental office, taking every extra shift she could. The unspoken message was clear. Someone had to be responsible. I threw myself into Mark's custom timber with a desperate energy. My garage became my entire world. I built a basic website, started a social media presence, cringy selfies with half-finished projects, the works, printed flyers, and pestered every local furniture store, interior designer, and contractor I could find. Money was tight. We cut everything non-essential. No eating out, no movies, generic brand everything. The kids' after-school activities were scrutinized. Every bill that came in felt like a judgment. Sarah would look at the mounting credit card statements used for business supplies, promising myself I'd pay it off with the next big order, and her face would just crumble. I knew it, she'd whisper sometimes. Not even to me, just to the air. I knew this would happen. There were days I wanted to give up, days I'd sit in the garage, covered in sawdust, staring at a piece of wood that refused to cooperate, and think, she was right. I'm a fool. I've ruined everything. The silence in the house when I came in for dinner was deafening. The kids were tiptoeing around us. One particularly low point, about 4 months in, a big commission for a built-in library fell through at the last minute. I'd already bought some of the expensive walnut. I just sat on the garage floor and cried. Not gonna lie, ugly man tears. Sarah found me there. She didn't say I told you so. She just stood in the doorway for a minute, then quietly went back inside. A few minutes later, she came out with a glass of water, didn't say a word, just handed it to me and left. It was the smallest of gestures, but it felt like not forgiveness, but maybe a tiny crack in the ice. Slowly, glacially, things started to turn. I got a commission for a set of custom cabinets for a new local bakery. They loved them. The owner posted pictures online, tagged me, raved about the quality. That led to a coffee shop wanting new tables. Then a boutique hotel owner saw those tables and commissioned me to do some feature pieces for their lobby renovation. This was a big one. It paid enough to clear the credit card debt and actually breathe a little. I started to get a reputation for quality craftsmanship and reliability. I was working 12 15-hour days, 7 days a week. Exhausted, but a different kind of exhausted. This was the ache of physical labor and mental engagement, not the soul-leeching drain of the office. I even started experimenting with online sales, smaller items like cutting boards, serving trays, small decorative boxes, through Etsy. It was slow, but it was another revenue stream. The kids were actually a surprising source of support. Lily would come into the garage and ask if she could sand a piece of scrap wood. Tom would organize my screws and nails into chaotic piles, he declared. Perfect. Seeing them take an interest, seeing the pride in their eyes when I showed them a finished piece, that fueled me. Daddy builds cool stuff, Tom told his kindergarten teacher. About a year in, I hit a milestone. I made in 1 month what I used to make at Consolidated Solutions. It was a fluke, driven by that big hotel order, but it was proof. I showed Sarah the numbers. She studied the printout from my much more interesting accounting software. That's good, Mark, she said. Still cautious, but the outright hostility was gone. It's more than good, Sarah. It's working. She bit her lip. It's 1 month. Yeah, I said, but it's a damn good month. And next month, I have that big restaurant contract. The real turning point with Sarah came about 18 months after I quit. I had finally outgrown the garage. I found a small, affordable workshop space in a semi-industrial part of town. It needed work, but it had good light, high ceilings, and three-phase power. A godsend for bigger machines. I signed a lease, my hand shaking. I asked Sarah to come see it with me before I started moving equipment in. She was hesitant, but she agreed. It was dusty, a bit grimy, an empty shell. But I walked her through it, my voice alive with plans. This is where the assembly tables will go. Over here, the finishing room, properly ventilated. I can finally get that big joiner I've been dreaming about. She was quiet, just looking around. Then she saw, tucked in a corner, a small, beautifully crafted child's rocking chair I'd made from cherry wood. I'd brought it over as the first piece for the new shop, a sort of good luck charm. Lily had outgrown it, but it was one of my favorite early pieces. Sarah walked over to it, ran her hand along the smooth, curved armrest. "You made this for Lily when she was 2, she said softly. "Yeah," I replied, watching her. She turned to me, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, her eyes weren't filled with fear or resentment. There was something else there, maybe a flicker of understanding. Or perhaps, just perhaps, a little bit of pride. "It's beautiful, Mark," she said. You're really good at this." And then she did something that stunned me. She started asking questions. Not what-if questions, but genuine, interested questions. "How will you manage the dust collection? What kind of security system will you install? Do you think you'll need to hire someone soon?" We talked for over an hour, standing in that dusty, empty space that held all my hopes. It was the first real connected conversation we'd had about the business, where she wasn't actively trying to dissuade me. Fast forward to now, 2.5 years since I took that lease. Mark's Custom Timber, I really need a better name, Sarah keeps saying, is a proper, thriving business. I have 2 full-time employees, Miguel, a young guy who's a natural with wood, and Brenda, who manages the office, scheduling and customer relations, and thankfully my social media, which is now actually good. We specialize in high-end custom furniture and architectural millwork. We've done work for some pretty fancy restaurants, boutique hotels, and a lot of residential clients who appreciate craftsmanship. We're booked out months in advance. Financially, we're doing better than when I was an accountant, significantly better. We've paid off all our consumer debt except the mortgage. We have a healthy emergency fund, and college savings are back on track, and then some. The irony is not lost on me that my risky venture is now providing more security than my stable job ever did. And Sarah, she's my biggest cheerleader. Seriously, she quit her dental hygienist job about a year ago to manage the books for Mark's Custom Timber. Part-time, from home, she wanted more time with the kids. Turns out, her organizational skills and no-nonsense attitude are perfect for keeping my creative chaos in check. She designed our invoicing system, deals with suppliers, and generally keeps the financial side of things running like a well-oiled machine. She even gives me design critiques now, and often, she's spot on. The other night, we were having dinner at a nice restaurant, something we can afford without stress now, and she raised her glass. "To Mark," she said, "who scared the absolute crap out of me, but showed me what it means to really live your passion." I got a little misty-eyed, not gonna lie. It wasn't easy. There were so many times I doubted myself, so many sleepless nights, so many tense silences, and I get why Sarah was scared. It was a huge risk. I don't blame her for her initial reaction. Change is terrifying, especially when you have a family to think about. But looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. That moment I hit send on my resignation email was the first day of the rest of my life. I wake up every morning, okay, most mornings, excited to go to work. I'm building things that will last, things that bring beauty and function into people's lives. I'm creating jobs. My kids see their dad happy and fulfilled. And my wife? She sees it too. She even helps me sweep up sawdust sometimes. We're a team again, in a way we hadn't been for years. Even before the business idea, we faced a storm, nearly capsized, but we navigated it, and our marriage is stronger for it. So, yeah, If you're stuck in a soul-crushing job dreaming of something else, I'm not saying jump without a plan. I had some savings, some existing clients, a tangible skill, but I am saying, don't let fear paralyze you indefinitely. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all, and maybe, just maybe, your reluctant spouse will eventually come around and become your most valuable partner. Eddie, wow. Thanks for all the responses and the awards. Didn't expect this to resonate with so many. To answer a few common questions, the kids, they're great. Lily, now 10, is actually getting pretty good with basic woodworking, safely, under supervision. Tom, now 8, mostly likes making epic messes with wood glue, but he's enthusiastic. They love coming to the workshop. Business name. Yeah, Mark's Custom Timber is still the official name. Sarah has a list of about 20 alternatives. We'll get there. Maybe. Mr. Henderson. Haven't seen or heard from him since the day I walked out. Can't say I missed those TPS report discussions. Advice for others. If you're thinking of a similar leap, my biggest advice is have some kind of cushion. Savings are key. It will likely take longer and cost more than you think. Do your research. Understand your market, your costs, your potential revenue. A passion project is one thing. A business is another. Talk to your partner more constructively than I initially did. Try to get them on board, or at least to a point of understanding. Their fear is often rooted in love and concern. Even if it comes out as anger, show them your plan. Be honest about the risks, but also the potential. Be prepared to work your ass off. Seriously, the first couple of years are a grind. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Mentors, other small business owners, even just supportive friends. Thanks again for reading my wall of text. It felt good to get it all out.